Hey guys, very good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to the video number 391, and in this video I'm going to do another attempt in making you pretty awesome in Excel VBA, and I'm going to tell you that what questions basically we receive in Excel VBA interviews. Right now this is going to be the advanced level, and I hope that you have watched my previous 35 videos as well, which are under the playlist Excel VBA Access Interview. Right, that's my playlist name. Now those who are watching the channel for the first time, I welcome all of you to the channel, and these are all free videos, and we are trying to basically create an awareness, and we are trying to spread this basically the VBA programming information, whether it is Excel or Access, through this channel, so that you can utilize all these techniques, all these programs in your office. Right, so guys, what you need to do is you need to click on the playlist on my channel, right, and there you will find 44 different playlists which we have created so far. Right, so these are all the different playlists, and if you scroll it down, you would come to know about all these the playlist. Now the video which I'm talking about is going to be uploaded under this playlist, where you have already got 38 videos. I thought it's like around 30, but we have 38 videos, guys. Now they are mix up of all the things. We have the advanced basic Excel videos interview questions, and we have the Excel VBA advanced basic interview questions. We have the Access VBA as well. You can scroll it down and you would come to know about all these different interviews videos. So let's go ahead today, and let us discuss what we want to do. These are the questions which I have prepared for you, and these are the questions which we're going to discuss one by one. Right, now we have the first question is we just double click here. All right, so the question which we are going to discuss is that what is the difference between events and modules? Please explain it by making a code. So that is what the question is. Right, now what are the difference between events and the modules? So guys, when you go to the Visual Basic environment, right, now this is called the module part. When you double click on that, here you write the program, and the events can even for the events we don't write it here in the modules. We write it in you can write here in this workbook, or you can select any sheet, double click here, and this is where you write the program. Right, now not only this, that you have a restriction that events cannot be written under the modules, and the modules, the standard codes can't be written here, otherwise they will not work the way you want. Apart from that, there is another major the difference between the events and the modules. Right, and you should know that what is the difference. The difference is that the modules, they they run when you want them to run. When you click on the button, the macro runs, right, and they are applicable to all to your entire workbook, regardless of how many sheets you have. But these events which you write in this workbook or any sheet, they are the self-triggered macros. They run when the condition gets satisfied. They don't run by your click, by your choice. Right, for example, suppose I'll give you this, this question is please explain it by making a code. Now suppose what you want to do is you want to create a very simple macro. The macro is that which says that hi, good morning. Right? Now if you're going to create that in this module, so I have already created this, let's say macro name is D, and here you write the message box, and you write here good morning, hi, good morning. Right, this is a macro. If you want to run this macro, what you will do? Well, you can come here, you can create the button here, and I just go here and insert any of the shape. Right, so I choose this shape, and I right click here, and I go to the assign macro, and I'm going to click here on the D. You know that unless until I click here, the macro will never run. If I click here, macro will run. It's fine, right? So it's all under my control. If you talk about the event, then event is something. Suppose now you want to run this, you go in this workbook module, which is by default. When you go to the Visual Basic editor, this window, this workbook will automatically come in. It is not something which you will have to create. This will always be there in your VBA window. Now suppose you have here conditions. I was talking about that the events are they are the self-triggered macros. They run when the condition is going to be met. So how you're going to put that condition, that is very interesting. So you select the workbook from here, and by default you may see this workbook underscore open. That means that whenever the workbook gets open, what you want to run, Well, I will not like to run this under this workbook open. Instead of that, I will choose some another condition, some another event. So what you need to do then, you just click here. Here you will have all these conditions, guys. These are all the events, right? For example, what if you want to do something if this workbook gets activated, if some add-in you're installing, if some add-in you're uninstalling, after save, whatever. For example, now I say after save. Now after save means that whenever I save this file, after that save event, what you want to run. So I write the same message box. So I'm going to write here, hi, good morning, for example. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I have created. Now what is the next thing you want to do? Now I come here and let me show you how to run this. Now guys, if you look at this, what will happen if I let us say if I just go ahead and insert another shape. I want to connect this event with this button, right? I want to show you something very interesting. When you click on the right click on this and you go to the assign macro, you don't see that macro here. It's not available, guys, because you cannot control it from the buttons, right? You can see here that it is just showing the D, and the D is by basically the macro which I have written here, in this module, the standard module, right? So whatever you write in the modules, that will be accessed, the macros. You can go and insert the shape, right click, and you will get to see all the macros, right? But what you insert here, that is not going to be, and that is why even you see here the private word coming, right? So how to access this, how to run this? Well, you don't have to. That's what I was talking about. It will run them itself. For example, you have written this after save. So let's do one thing, guys. I'm just going to save this file in front of you right away. Look at this. I'm gonna save this now, obviously, because this is the XLSX extension. So let us go ahead and save the extension first of all. And so I go here and change this to macro enabled. We will have to change the extension. I hope all of you know that. Look at this, guys. The moment the file is saved, you got the prompt, hi, good morning, right? This is a different one. This is a different one. And if I save this again, I just press, you can press Control S as well. You see that this will come. So this is the difference, right? Now the point is, I will go further and explain you more about that, when to write the code in the sheet 2. What is the difference basically? Now you have written the code in this workbook, so that means it is applicable to all the sheets, right? Because we have written the code in this workbook module. So that means even if I come on the sheet 2 and I try to do the save, that good morning would come, right? Now this is this good morning, right? I can say here that changes saved, so that we can see that whether this is a good morning coming up or this good morning is coming up. So I just go ahead and save the file again, right? So look at this. This is what I was talking about, right? So this is working on entire workbook, in this entire workbook. Now the point is, obviously you can't save the sheet separately, you will have to save the entire workbook. But what if you go to if I just go ahead and create something else? For example, I go in this workbook and I say that maybe I choose here another event which can be applied to the sheet as well. So for example, I write a sheet change. I select the sheet change here, and now I'm going to just cut this message. I'm going to put it here, right? Now I delete this after save. Now you see that what happens if I just write here, if I just change anything. For example, this is the empty cell and I write here 8. Know that the value is changed from 0 to 8. So what will happen? You will have this, the macro coming up. Right now obviously we are not writing any macro, but just from the understanding perspective, I'm telling you that how the macros can run, right? So this is done. Now if you go to the sheet 2, what will happen if you write here 88? Do you think the macro will work? Of course it will work, because you have written the macro in this workbook. But the same thing, if I just want to run only in the sheet 1 and in the sheet 2, if any changes happen, do not want to run that macro, then what will you do? Then in that case, guys, if I just cut this line and I go to the specific sheet, and now from here I choose my declaration. But before that, you need to click here on the worksheet. Remember, now you're getting the worksheet here, we're getting the workbook. So now if I come here in the worksheet and the selection changes same here, and I just write here Control V. Now what will happen if I just, for example, one more thing I want to do, it is not a selection change. Basically, selection change means that anything if whenever your cursor gets, jumps from the one cell to the another, that is called the, so we want to do the change, worksheet change. So I'm just going to cut this from here and I'm going to put it here. Now the same event we have written in this workbook as well. So now you see that I have removed it from this. So in the workbook it says sheet change, in the sheets it comes as worksheet change, but logic is same. Whenever you will have any changes in the value, this macro should run. So I'm going to simply change this to 9. You see that it is going to fire. If I just write here something, 0 is changed to 9 and the macro will fire, but will it work in the sheet 2? That was my main point. So if I'm going to change this to 99, see that nothing happens. So that is a difference. Whenever you write something in this workbook, that event is going to run for all the workbooks, all the worksheets, but whatever you write in the sheet specific, that is going to be applicable only to that particular sheet, right? So that is the difference. Now let's go to the next question. What is the object hierarchy in the Excel VBA model? So the object hierarchy is very simple in the Excel VBA. You have the biggest application, which is the Excel, and then you have the workbooks, and then you have the worksheets. After the workbook, you have the worksheet, or worksheets, whatever you want to call it, and then you have the cells. Then in the cells have the charts and then the pivots and so on, right? So guys, this is basically the your object hierarchy. First you have the bigger application, then you have the the another application, the object which comes in that. So Excel is the biggest. In order to open the workbook, you got to open the Excel. In order to open the worksheet and to work there, select the worksheet. In fact, I won't say that open, because worksheets can't be open, but in order to work on the worksheets, you got to have the workbook open. And in order to select the cells and to write something, to insert the charts or the pivots, whatever you want to do, you got to have worksheet selected. So this is how the the object hierarchy works, right? Now let us go ahead and check out the another question, which is what is the similarity and dissimilarity between data type byte, integer, long, and simple? So guys, byte, integer, long, and simple. So basically the similarity is that the byte and the integer and the long and the single, they all belongs to a family called number family. Okay, so you have a number family here, so they all represent the numbers, right? And what is the dissimilarity? Now the dissimilarity is that the byte, integer, and the long, right, they actually represents the whole number. There is no decimal. A number like, for example, 44, 45, 46, 100, whatever. And the single not only represents the whole number, but it covers your decimals as well. So single can handle 45 as well, and it can handle 45.6 as well. If you use the 44.6 in the byte and the integer, they will only give you 45. They will remove the decimal, right? Now if you really want to get in-depth detail, then what you can do is go to my channel, and here need to find out, there is a playlist which has a title says Excel VBA Introduction Series. Many people, you keep on asking me that how to learn the Excel VBA on this channel or the Excel. So particularly about this Excel VBA, like you see that here we have the Access VBA Introduction tutorial. You will need to find here playlist which says that Excel VBA Introduction Series, or maybe you can type in here in the this search tab, and you will get to see that introduction. Once you get to see that Excel VBA Introduction Series, you need to find there a video which says that life of a variable. Okay, and you would understand this, what I'm saying, what I have just said, right? So let us go ahead and let us and otherwise the another difference is also that byte can hold only 0 to 255 numbers, integer can hold around 32,000 something number, and long can really hold a big number, and single even can hold a larger number than the long. So that is also the difference in terms of its the strength and the capacity. But I think these are the main differences. The decimal, single is used for the decimal as well as for the whole, particularly for the decimal numbers, but byte, integer only they cannot be used for the decimal numbers. They will remove the decimal if you try to use it. Now the another question is very interesting: how to lock the scroll bar. That means you want that user should not be able to use these, like I'm moving here left to right and I'm going down. Then what you can do is, then this is the code you can use in your sheet, which is sheet 1 scroll area, and you can put the scroll area in the log. So what you can do is you can go to the Visual Basic, and here in the module over here, instead of this message box, what you can do is you can simply write here worksheet, or just write the sheet name. So I'm gonna write my sheet name, which is sheet 1, and then you write here, close the bracket, and you write here scroll area, and then just give the range. So whatever the range you want to give, for example, I'm going to give the range A1 to A10. Okay, now when you run this, if I just run this, look at this. Now what will happen if I just now try to scroll it? I'm trying to click here, I cannot click that, guys. I'm trying to click here, it's not moving, the screen is locked, right? So that is also the one of the method. Well, of course I know can also do it from the this basically the review and the protection, but through the VBA it can be done in this way as well, right? Very simple trick. Now if you want to come back to this, then just give it a space and just run it again. So I'm going to run the line again, and now if I just click, you see that I can click here. Wonderful, right? This I learned of late, so I thought of putting this question, right? How to close all the workbooks except for the one from where the macro is running. Now this is very interesting. Let me, by the way, first of all close this PPT, and I go here, and now I create one more module. So let us say we want to close the workbook. So workbook close. This is what I'm going to write. Now what will happen if you want to close all the workbooks, then you can run the loop. Because suppose obviously you can close the workbooks, only those workbooks you can close which are actually open. Those who are not which workbooks are which are not open, you can't close it. So first of all, I will go ahead and maybe I'm gonna open this let's say workbook called budget in front of you. So I just write here, and so this is what the workbook is, and then I go ahead and let me open maybe one more, which is today work. What we want to do is we want to close these workbooks one by one, but ensure that the VBA interview, which is my existing workbook, that should not get closed. So what you can do is you can prepare this small code. This is called the collection loop actually, and you can write here for each WB in workbooks, and then you can write here that active workbook, or you can just write here WB dot close and next. Now I'll tell you, basically this is the interview. If you see this video from the interview perspective, you're supposed to know almost everything, because when you go ahead and give the interview, you don't go there as a beginner or as somebody who doesn't have any idea, right? So still, if you want to understand about the collection loops, guys, not a problem. You can take a full-fledged knowledge from the collection on the collection loops starting from the beginning. Just go ahead and check out my playlist Excel VBA collection loops, you will find there. Now this particularly loop is going to do what? It is going to activate the workbooks one by one, because we are seeing for each workbook in workbooks. So whatever the workbooks you have opened, is going to activate it one by one in the window, and we're gonna close that. But before we close that, we will put the condition here, okay? And the condition would be this: if workbook name, whatever the workbook I have selected, if that is not equals to my this workbook dot name, okay, only then close it. Otherwise just do nothing. Just write here do nothing. You don't have to really write it. So you're gonna write do nothing, end it. Okay, now what will happen when you're going to run this code? Before you run the code, make sure that you should be on this workbook. So I just write here that it should activate my this workbook, right? Because if you're going to be on this workbook, I don't think so it's a good idea. You should not be on any other workbook while running this code, right? Anyways, that will never happen, because after all, you will create the button here, and to click on the button, you will have to open that workbook. You will have to activate that workbook, not open actually. So I'm going to run this code now. Look at this, what will happen. So it is going to activate the workbook, and the workbook name is VBA interview, which is obviously the workbook of this workbook name. So both the conditions are satisfied, both these names are same. So this will go in the else mode, and your workbook will not be closed. Now the next time the VBA will activate the new workbook, right? So you can see here, this is the budget one. So if I just run this will close it. Now you can also write so I see that I don't want to save it. See that the workbook is closed. You can also write in the close that you don't want to save the changes, so you just write here false, and when you write that this way, it is not going to ask you whether you want to close it or not. right? Or if you write true, then the changes will be saved. Now let us go ahead, and now the another workbook is activated, which is today workbook, and again, see that it is closed and the macro stopped. So all the two workbooks are closed, and this VBA interview, which is your this workbook, is not closed. So that's a very simple loop. You can use it, right? What is the next question? The next question is find total number of sheets in the workbook. So how many sheets I have? Now this is pretty simple. What you can do is you can simply go here. Let me just comment this, and you can simply write here message box, and you can write here sheets dot count. Okay, now when you're gonna run this, let me run the code. This is what you get, number of sheets. I have 2 sheets, so you got the prompt 2. Very simple. Okay, last question is where we use exit sub and enter, any difference? Well, there's a lot of difference. Enter is something which you will have to use every time. Look at this enter is created, and in fact it gets created automatically the moment you write the macro name, right? So sub, with every sub, end sub actually followed. So if you write sub and I just write here name test and I close the bracket, end sub gets created. So end sub is something which VBA creates for you. No doubt, I mean, you can also write yourself, but there's no point. Why would you do that, right? Because end sub automatically gets created. But yes, if by mistake it gets deleted from you, can create it. But end sub basically is it says that it is the end of my macro, it is the end of my sub procedure, subroutine. So the macro stops here, and when this line gets executed, whatever the variables you were using, as long as this macro was running, they all will get eliminated. They are the local variables, right? The exit sub is something in sometimes we are in a situation, if the condition doesn't get satisfied, we immediately like to stop the macro, and we really don't want to go further. That's what exactly we like to do. For example, if I just say that if my cell let's say 1 comma 1 dot value equals to 10, then what I want to do, if the value in my A1 cell is going to be 10, then I should exit the macro immediately. Else what I need to do, else I need to go further. Then I want to work on that. So for example, if the value is not 10, then maybe I would like to go ahead and create one more sheet. So I just write a worksheets dot add, for example, and then I would like to give that sheet name some name, any so I can write a name equals to, maybe let us say test. Okay, that's what I want to do, and if, right? And then afterwards also, I mean, you can write here anything. For example, you can run the loop. I say that for 1 equals to 4 and next, so this loop will run, and you're gonna give the message box. You will have the values called of I, right? So this entire code will work if the value in the cell is not going to be 10. So I select this sheet and we go on the top. Now you see that my sheet doesn't have 10 here. Okay, so I'm on this sheet right now, so I will refer to this cell 1 comma 1 to this sheet, right? Or you can prefix the sheet name as well if you want to be specific, but that's fine. Let us go ahead and run the code, and I'm going to declare my dim I as long. Okay, now the moment I start the code, all right, so I think there's a typo mistake, message box, it has to be 1. Okay, there we go. Now that this value is not 10, it is empty. So obviously new worksheet will be added, and the worksheet will name have a test. You see that it worked, and then the loop will run. You will have the entire loop running like this. But what if condition doesn't satisfy and you don't want to go, you immediately want to exit from the macro, right? Because in this case, if I just delete this sheet, see what happens. Now you can write the code in 2 ways. For example, if you don't write this exit sub, okay, what will happen? If I run this code, see what will happen. I write here 10. First of all, let me write the 10 here. So I write here 10, and let's come back to the Visual Basic editor. Now you see that that the value is here 10. What will happen eventually? You haven't written anything in the then, right? So nothing will happen, but it will skip the else part and it will go in the end if, and then the macro will run, and whatever we have written after the end if, it will be executed. you have no control. It has to execute, right? But what if you don't want to run this loop unnecessarily because your condition did not meet? Then you write, guys, the exit sub. So now if you run the same code again, see what will happen. It will go in and it will stop the macro. Now the loop, even the loop which is outside this if domain, if area, that is also not going to be executed. As simple as that. That's the difference between the exit sub and the end sub. So in one line, if I have to say, exit sub is under my control. I can exit from the macro whenever I want. End sub is something which macro insert, VBA inserts for me, and you know it works throughout the code, right? Till the time your arrow is not going to reach here, the arrow, which means I'm talking about this arrow basically, because when you run the macro, the lines always starts from the beginning. Macro starts executing the lines from the beginning. So till the time it will not go here in the end sub, the macro you cannot actually the macro will keep on running till the time it doesn't cross this end sub line. Of course you can in the escape to stop the macro, but that's a different thing. The exit sub is wherever you write, it will immediately exit from that, right? Guys, that's it for now. I hope I was able to do justice with this video, and any comments, any questions you have, let me know about it, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much.